Hey, are you ready to build a real estate business that not only survives, but thrives? It's going to start with one key simple step, and that is creating a business plan, which is your roadmap for success that you are building and not just hoping and praying everything works. So, hi, everybody. My name is Justin Lefby. I am the professor of real estate. And today we're taking a deep dive, actually, really a quick dive into what makes a winning business plan for real estate success. Whether you're a seasoned agent or just getting started, a well-structured business plan is the foundation for a sustainable real estate business. And we're not just talking about documents you file away. We're talking about a plan that will actively guide you along your business decision process. We're going to do this with basically 5 key factors, I think, that are to play: goal planning, SWOT analysis, financial planning, market research, and operational strategies. So let's begin. 1, goal setting. So when we're doing goal setting is probably one of the first, if maybe not one of the biggest starting points for your business plan. I'm going to encourage you always to do this from a long-term and a short-term process. What are your 1, 3, 5, 10-year goals? What does that look like? This gives you directions that you're pointing for in that specific arena. But also, how are we going to get there? What are the steps? What's our 1-year goal? And really today, what we're going to talk about this is from that 1-year perspective. Because what I also want to hint at and show you is to think back a little bit and go, okay, what if I break it down to a quarterly goal, right? So what are goals? Goals are those items you shoot for, right? It's a dartboard. You're always trying to hit bullseye. It's that spot you're looking for what you're doing. Now, with goals, you're always hear the key term SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Now, a couple of things I'll tell you in this regards is I want you guys to understand when it comes to achievable, that is can be a little misleading. So when we talk about achievable, it doesn't mean you don't stretch. It doesn't mean you don't try to push yourself to your goals. Les Brown tells us most people fail not because we aim too high and miss, but rather we aim too low and hit. So I don't want us to sit there and throw big goals out there that we can't realistically attain. I also don't want us to get caught up in undervaluing what we do and underestimating our abilities. So please always make sure you're challenging yourself. So as an example, one of the things I might want to say is I want to list 10 properties by January 1st of next year, right? Whatever that year may be. Sometimes you're going to hear people saying 90 days, and that's fine. 90 days is actually calculable. But what I'm going to tell you is one of the things that you'll hear from trainings that I do on all of this, and I actually do have a program that I built just for agents to get themselves started and get that consistent business moving, that having a specific date matters. 90s is good. 90 days rather is good, but 1 year is good, as the example I just gave. I'm going to talk about why I said 90 here in a second, but it does help when you're even that much more specific. Now, I did hint at 90 days. I was already jumping ahead in my brain. One of the things I want you to think about with the 90 days is, again, what do you think about this from a quarterly perspective? If I wanted to do 10 listings in a year, if I break that down to 3 months, what is that? Roughly 2.5, 3 listings. I'd round up 3 listings per month or per quarter. What is that goal? How does that happen in here, and what do you do? Then you're going to need to actually break down, and we're going to talk a little bit later about some of this stuff, but how your goals into actionable steps. How many networkings you're going to? How many open houses are you running? How many phone calls, emails, newsletters, whatever are you doing? How are you going to get those numbers? It's great to have the goal, but if you don't have anything in there that's going to set an actionable item, it's superficial at best. So that's just one of the things I wanted to make sure you all understand. Now, 2, we have SWOT analysis. So that stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is always good for us to do, because when we're looking at what we got to do, we have to know where we're strong, where we're weak, where there is new business opportunities that are going to present themselves over the next year. And more specifically, what are some threats that are going to factor that we're in there? Now, sometimes we can't predict those factors, but if you do listen to people around, you'll be able to figure that out. So strengths, let's talk about that. What do you bring to the table that stands out? What are those unique value perspectives, or whatever you like to call UVP? What are those value items that you have that you bring to the table that makes you unique? What stands out for you? What are the things you are good? John Maxwell essentially tells us there's what's called the law of the lid. He essentially tells us people chase excellence. If you have weaknesses, you can at best get them to average. But if you always work on focusing on your strengths, you can get them to excellent, right? So let's focus on that. Going back to weaknesses, what areas you need to improve? Now, again, we should always be working to improve and help ourselves grow. But I'm going to tell you, maybe you got to find systems or tools that you're bad at. Maybe you're not a good lead generator. Maybe you got to hire some of that out. Do you need to improve negotiations? Maybe you got to take a class or something like that. What do you got to do to improve that information? Now, opportunities. Where are the gaps in your market? Where is an underserved area that you focus on, that you want to help with your business? Where do you see things coming into play? Threats. What are those external, probably even internal effects that could be affecting your business? What are things that you have done well over the last 2 years that may become irrelevant or no longer a value perspective in life? An example I will give you: early in my career, I was really, really good at working with distressed properties. And, well, while I was good at it, I mean, I had partners, I had people help working together. That's why I was good at it. It was more of a we were good at it. But when we had that, it was great. But until that market started drying up, we had to see what's going to happen. The market got better, right? People didn't need to have those distressed sales anymore. It was well. So what are those changes in your market? What are the new competitors in your area? How are you going to handle that? These are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. Next, once you have started figuring some of that out, you want to figure out your financial planning. You need to figure out what your goals, your revenue goals are. What does 10 transactions by the end of the year look like financially? Because then you're going to reverse engineer this. You want to figure out what your budget is to make that play out. So what do you have for month to month? You got to consider expenses. What also is that cash flow? So again, revenue goals. When we look at that, what are those goals? Those are usually fairly easy to figure out. I mean, if you are new to the business, you can talk to your office, figure out what those average price points in your area, what a typical agent in your office makes, and then you can reverse that out, right? You can make that make sense for you. Once you have that, again, what you want to do is figure out from that perspective how much you need to break down, right? Say I'm making $100,000. Well, does that mean I get $10,000 per month to play? No, because you got expenses. You got to figure out what your office costs are, what it takes to market, what it's going to take for travel, tools that you need for your business, maintenance costs, right? All that stuff comes to play. So you need to be able to budget that stuff out and figure that out there. So you also not only know that, but you know what your income is, which goes back to cash flow management, where in here you will have the ability to know and understand what it is, where your profit center is going to lie or not lie, because there may be dips in income. You need to be prepared for that, especially if you go through seasonal rotations of markets. Sometimes there are ups and sometimes there are definitely downs in those markets. So you do want to make sure you have that in there and you have some sort of buffer to change that. And credit cards is not that buffer, folks. Credit cards is not what's going to make that work for you. So let's make sure you have that, because money can be stressful, especially if you don't have any. And we need to make sure you have plans to feel comfortable in those markets. Again, I started real estate in 2006, and the fascinating thing that I saw about a lot of markets those days were when we saw agents that were used to making a lot of money and they didn't build any places for the dips in there, it became stressful for them. They did not have real good plans. And I'm going to tell you, for the next year, I mean, we are still looking at really decent markets, but I'm going to tell you, I have been extremely conservative in my teachings and my coaching over the last year. I'm asking people to build more safety nets into their business, because each year we have such good success is going to be asking for a year that we don't, or more. And the more we get, the more we're going to have to go. We're going to have to ride waves, probably some big waves. So just be careful and be ready for that. Next, we got to do our market research. We got to know our areas for several reasons. One, we got to know how we're going to market to them. But two, we got to know where it's at, what's going on, how it's happening. So you have tools in your MLS that will let you focus and understand what's going on, the dynamics of the markets that you are in and what you're working in. You will see that in here. But you will also need to go out and network and work with other areas to know what the community is doing in your area. Is it full of first-time home buyers? Are there investors that are trying to pop in the area? Is it a good luxury area for that stuff? You need to know what that market is and define your niche. I'm going to tell you, knowing your niche helps because, again, John Maxwell says there's what's known as a law of energy, and that law essentially says energy is given and taken. And I'm going to tell you, everything every business ever does in life will have energy takers, right? It's just how it kind of works. But you need to find ways to replenish it. I'm going to tell you, though, one of the easiest ways to replenish is to find a market, a niche that you like to work in that gets you up in the morning, that excites you, that works out there and gets you moving and motivated. It's what I do every day with this stuff. You guys are the ones that motivate me. This is why I come out here and do these videos and try to help everybody do this. But once you know that and you have identified your niche, you also got to know what's happening in those areas. Are prices rising? Is the market starting to soften? Real estate markets are micro niched, which means as a whole, when you look in your area as a town, it could be good, but small communities could be slowing down. Certain price points could be slowing down, and you need to know that in your area to see what's going on. You also want to see who your competition is. You want to see who's doing what. You know, we're all competitive. We all do this business independently. We have offices and we have that. But as agents, we work and chase the same dollar. So what is your top agents in your area doing? The reason you want to know that is, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you make those changes, those identifications that let people know you have a different item of value that you give them? One thing about video that's always really challenging, podcasting, stuff like that, if you're listening to this in a different mode, is one of the biggest challenges you always see in here is that people won't do these things because it's already been said. People already said it. Well, here's the thing. You didn't say it, right? And so it's your voice. And that's could be one of the things, going back to the competitive analysis, is that you give your voice, your communication strategies, your personality can be that competitive advantage. But you got to know it and you got to understand what it is, but you got to know what it is. You can't know what it is for you if you don't know what everybody else is doing. So do that research. Last but not least, because this is no certain order, it's just 5 basic items, is operational strategies. So once we have done some of these things like the goals, SWOT, finances, market research, we got to figure out what we're going to do from day to day, right? I think you could do this, number one, to be complete. Well, probably number 2. I think goals have to be first, but you could do this in different orders. This could be second. It probably helps if you do a couple other things ahead of time, but not necessary. But what it is, how are we going to lead generate? What are we doing in our area? Are we making a very heavy social media front? Are we calling and talking to other agents, other consumers and clients and asking for referrals? Are we paying for advertising? Are we making phone calls every day? What is that lead generation system that you are working on today that makes that work for you? can you leverage with that lead generation system some sort of CRM? Now, CRM stands for Customer Relation Management. And while it's great and you can pay for them, if you don't have that money, you don't have to. Some, really kind of many MLSs in the country have what I will call a lightweight CRM. They will do most things in here minus some really hard marketing campaigns. So you can have that built into those systems. But you also can pay for others, but it also doesn't have to be that. I know a friend of mine, when I first knew him in real estate, his CRM was a box of note cards. And they had people's names and phone numbers, and he would take it with him everywhere he went, and he would make phone calls. And once he made a phone call and put a note in it, he would put it in the back of the note card. So it was just yours, and he would just keep recycling through. That was his CRM. It was great for what he did. It works. But once you get to a certain level, you can now put it into systems and do what it goes for. Don't just look for a CRM because everybody uses the word CRM. Look for it in regards to knowing what you need. There's a really good guy by the name of Craig Grant. He is the president of RETI. And he actually on his website has a what CRM tool survey should I use? And you answer a serious question, it gives recommendations. It's really solid. If you don't know what to do, look at it and go from there. Also, if you can automate that with the CRM or some other things that you do in place, this really works too. So email follow-up, schedulings to free up your time. There are tools in place that will make that work for you all day long. Leadership is all about foresight and strategic vision. By creating a detailed business plan, you're not just planning for today, you're preparing for your business for whatever comes tomorrow. Strong leaders don't just focus on immediate success, they look ahead to future growth. So I say that because we're all leaders. We are helping people make the biggest decision we have in life, and it matters today. So thank you all. Here's my challenge for you. Start creating that winning business plan. It's time right now to take action. If you already have a plan, great. Go look at it, revise, see some of the questions that I add. Maybe you have to add a couple principles in there that we talked about, you maybe not have done. Put it in there. If you have questions or you have ideas, put it in the comments. Happy to hear them. I love to hear what we have in place for that stuff, see what's going on. Here's the thing I want you to know about. I do offer what's known as a real estate blueprint. We're starting the first version soon, but it's going to be online at your own pace for a lot of things. There'll be mentorship. You'll see me live every month, every other week, probably early on. But you'll have this, and you'll have systems in place that will help you build that winning program step by step inside the system. So sign up today, and let's build that strong, long-term success. And again, folks, if you found this video helpful at all, subscribe, share it with your colleagues. Let's build stronger real estate business together. If you have any questions or want to dive deeper into any of these topics, drop them in the comments below. I'm happy to help.